Let's dive right in. These are my best legal/business safety tips, approaches, and techniques all live streamers might want to pay attention to, especially if you're doing business and combining your live streaming efforts with selling your products and services. Quickly, let me just say, while I am a lawyer and I'm a pretty good California lawyer, I'm not your lawyer. No legal advice is being given in this video. The California State Bar makes me say that. I'm going to talk about waivers. I'm going to talk about disclaimers in this video, but that's what I just did. I'm walking my talk. So depending on what you do for a living, depending on what you're representing to the general public, think about using disclaimers and think about using waivers when it comes to promoting your products and services or talking about your products and services during your live video. First, a bit of context before I dive into my 4 best tips and another 4 or 5 subcategories underneath one or more of those tips. Let me just say I've been on live videos since late 2011, 2012 when Spreecast rolled out. What I've noticed about live video is it allows us to connect with other people around the world 24/7. It's awesome, especially right now with everything going on across the world. It's easy, it's fast, especially when you use the technology that's out today. But because it's easy and fast, that doesn't mean that you can look the other way or should look the other way when it comes to protecting not only your legal rights, but the legal rights of your clients and customers. Just because you can click and go live doesn't mean you should do so the wrong way. Take a deep breath and make sure you follow these safety rules and also what other additional rules and requirements might apply to what you do for a living, your industry, your profession, right? So let's get started. The first thing is when you go live, like I am right now, this is being brought to you by Jackson & Wilson, Inc., which is a California law corporation. I'm going to share major value with you guys. And the first tip is do business and go live on behalf of your business, not as you in the capacity of an individual. If you're doing business, and it depends on which state you're in, and it depends on what you sell, what your service is. So check with a good lawyer in your state. But you want to do business as either a corporation, a sub-S corporation, maybe a limited liability company. And once again, your state and industry will dictate which path you want to go down. But make sure when you go live that the viewer of your live video understands that they're watching a video being created on behalf of your company and not you as an individual. The reason that's important is that it allows you to separate your business liabilities from your personal assets. Critically important. The average business in the United States before social, digital, and live video was involved in a claim or a lawsuit about 3 times during its business career, its business history. Now, don't blame me, don't blame the lawyers for that. It's usually about 97% of the cases are one company suing another company, all right? So let's just take a step back, and I think with video and live video and social media, we're going to see those numbers substantially increase over the next 10 years because it's never been easier to create a business and go live, and at the same time, it's never been easier to file a claim or a lawsuit against somebody that's doing this, right? So you want to protect yourself from day one. One of the best ways to do so is do business as a limited liability company or corporation, depending on who you are, where you're located, and what kind of products and services you sell. And let your live video audience know they're watching a video like I did. And it's easy and it's simple. You don't have to dive deep, but they're watching a video on behalf of my corporation, okay? If there's liability, then the liability stops at the corporate level. There's a protective wall. It's a corporate veil that separates your business liabilities, okay, from your personal assets. And what I mean by that is your personal bank accounts, your equity in your home, the family basset hound, your retirement plan, whatever it might be, you can protect all of those assets from your business liabilities. So make sure you go live and let your viewer know that you're going live on behalf of the XYZ company, on behalf of Mitch Jackson Inc., on behalf of Jackson & Wilson, whatever it might be. Make sure your viewer knows that they're watching a live stream on behalf of your company. And if you need help setting up your corporation or your limited liability company, I've got 2 great resources for you. Number 1, check out LegalZoom, LegalZoom.com. They do a great job of helping you set things up. The hard part about setting up an LLC or corporation isn't necessarily setting things up. It's managing these companies on a daily basis, on a weekly and annual basis. There are rules and regulations, paperwork that needs to be taken care of, insurance and filings and things like that. So I see a lot of people set their companies up correctly, but then they don't manage their companies on an annual basis the way they're supposed to. And so when they need that protection, it's not there. So you have to set up your company correctly and then run it correctly each and every year. LegalZoom's a great way to get started. Rocket Lawyer's another service you might want to try. Reach out to your local bar association, which is a group of lawyers in your city and state. Oftentimes they have lawyers that will help you do what I just described without charging you a fee or charging you simply a minimal fee to review the paperwork. So that's a great way to get started with creating your company, your LLC or your corporation, before you go live and start promoting your products and services. The second thing I'd like to talk to you guys about are copyrights, intellectual property. When you go live, make sure that any photos, any videos, any logos that you're using, you have the right to use that document, item, or thing. Generally, what I tell my clients is that if you did not create the photo, the video, the logo, whatever it might be, the soundtrack, then don't use it. Unless you've got express written permission from the creator of that content to use it in your live video, you probably don't have the legal right to use that content. There are exceptions, okay? The exceptions fall under the fair use doctrine. I'm not going to get into those exceptions and dive too deep, but if you're doing a live video and you're using other people's content for educational purposes in a classroom, for legitimate news as opposed to commercial purposes, there may be an exception, but it's a gray area. And what I've noticed in this gray area is normally the party with the best lawyer wins. You don't want to be in that gray area for any reason whatsoever. If you didn't create the content that you're using, look at the video behind me on the Ecamm green screen. I purchased the licensing rights to use this video, and I'm playing around with it and seeing how it looks. I didn't just grab it and use it. You need to do the same thing. Purchase the ownership rights, purchase a limited or full use license, or purchase or acquire your images, your videos, your soundtracks from services where the creators of this content are giving you permission to use it for free, okay? But the general rule is if you didn't create it, don't use it without the permission of the owner. The third tip I'd like to share with everyone is live video is fast, right? We can reach out to someone across the street or on the other side of the world just like this. It works, it connects, we're making eye contact, everyone's working from home right now. This is a pivot, it's a major pivot in business, I believe, being in the cloud, using live video to do business. Now, having said that, just because we can do something fast doesn't mean we should do something without documenting what happened, without entering into written agreements. So, one of the big challenges that my clients have when they're rolling their businesses out and using live video is they're creating deals, they're creating relationships, they're consulting, they're selling their products and services, but they're not documenting what they're doing with a business agreement, with a written contract. So set up template contracts for the sale of your products or services. And maybe use something like DocuSign where you can upload the template into DocuSign and literally within 30 or 60 seconds after agreeing to do something, after selling your consulting services, after closing a deal, you can DocuSign the other person that template, have them complete it online, have them digitally sign it, and you will then have written confirmation signed by all parties as to what just happened, as to the sale of your products or services. I've represented young entrepreneurs that have started big companies with a couple of Twitter DMs, okay, with a couple of private messages, text messages, and there was never an operating agreement, a company was never formed, and inevitably a year later, just like a bad relationship, everything fell apart and there wasn't anything to document what the rights and remedies were of everyone involved. I see the same thing happening with live video. I see us making fantastic business relationships, starting new business ventures, working together and collaborating on new deals, but I'm not seeing a lot of this documented. Okay, what are the rights and obligations of everyone involved? If you're putting money into it, how much are you putting in? What's the repayment plan? If you make a profit, what is going to be the distribution of the profits? These are all things that you need to put in writing, even though live video is fast and easy and it allows you to build more relationships and create more business opportunities than ever before. That doesn't mean you want to be laxed about documenting those business transactions with putting those business opportunities into proper written format to protect everyone involved. And once again, LegalZoom is a great platform to get most of your basic sales agreement, consulting agreements done. I've done some brand ambassador agreements for some of the top brand ambassadors on the planet. There are certain things you want to have in your agreements that may not be in these templates that you buy that I've just described, and a couple of provisions you want to keep in mind. Okay, these are like inside legal tips from someone that's been doing this for 34 years, is you want to make sure you have a venue clause in your written agreements. A venue clause is a clause that says, listen, if there's a claim, if there's a dispute, if there's litigation, all parties agree to handle that claim, dispute, or to litigate the case in the city of XYZ, in the county of XYZ, in the state of XYZ. You can pick where you'll be handling the dispute. And the reason that's so important is that I'm here in Southern California. And if I sell a product or service to somebody in New York, or maybe somebody in London, and there's a dispute, maybe it's a good faith dispute, maybe it's a frivolous claim, what happens is for that customer or client to dispute the claim, they have to do so in Orange County, California, in Santa Ana, California, which is where our courthouse is. Oftentimes that can be a deterrent to frivolous claims. It can be a deterrent to somebody pursuing litigation and using it as leverage and holding it over your head to do something you don't want to do. They're going to have to pick up the tab and travel from New York or London to California to litigate the case. They're going to have to hire California counsel. The cost of doing so may override their need to pursue claims. So I like giving my clients leverage. And one of the ways you guys can get leverage is make sure in your agreements you have venue clauses to protect your rights, to protect your interests, and to give you as much leverage as possible should you need it in a business transaction. Another great clause is what's called an indemnity or hold harmless clause. And what this is a lot of you using live video, the consulting industry, you're using third parties to help communicate with your clients and to help provide products and services pursuant to your expertise as a consultant. If they make a mistake, if they do something wrong, let's say they grab a copyrighted photo or video or song and put it in content that you end up sharing on behalf of your clients on social media, on live video. There's a copyright violation. It wasn't caused by you, but it was done by your independent contractor or an employee in your company or somebody that you're doing business with. And indemnification and hold harmless agreement basically says this. It says if that happens, the person that's at fault, this third party, they have an obligation to reimburse you for any cost, expenses, attorney's fees, or damages that you may be exposed to because of their negligent or wrongful conduct. It's an indemnification / hold harmless agreement that you want to incorporate into the written agreements that we talked about. The last thing I want to talk about, and once again, let's circle back. My name is Mitch Jackson, California lawyer, and this is being brought to you by my firm, Jackson and Wilson, Inc., California Corporation. See what I just did? You want to circle back in live video every now and then and remind everyone who's sharing the video because you have people joining late. And I think it's just good practice to every 5 or 10 minutes bring this up. I'm not that worried about it right now, but when you're selling products and services, bring this up and let people know. For example, let people know in this case, while I'm sharing some thoughts and ideas with you, I'm not sharing any legal advice. And the California State Bar does require me to let you know that I am not your lawyer. If you have any questions, contact a qualified lawyer in your state. See, I want to do that every once in a while. I know it's awkward, but the more you do it, the easier it gets. And that leads me into my last tip, and it's a very important tip. And I started off today's live video with this in mind, and that is use disclaimers, use waivers. Let people know what the terms and conditions of your live video is. When you're sharing a video on YouTube, I highly recommend in the description at the bottom, use disclaimers. Use disclaimers in your video, use disclaimers while you're shooting a live video, but also in your written descriptions, in your show notes. Let people know that you're not offering any advice as to the XYZ issue. You're simply sharing information. If they'd like more information, for them to reach out to you. Whatever you do for a living, think about what's the waiver, what is the disclaimer that I need to include in my content, right? Because if people feel like you're giving them advice and they rely upon that advice and something bad happens or they lose money or they go out of business, they may want to come back after you for damages. You told me what to do. I thought you were talking to me. I followed your advice and I lost everything. Well, if you have a written disclaimer and waiver in your description, in your show notes, it can just be a short paragraph. You can Google, you can go to LegalZoom to figure out how to put a disclaimer or waiver together. What you'll find is it gives you the ability to argue that that's not what happened. You were simply sharing thoughts in a live video as opposed to sharing specific advice. And the reason that's important is that if you find yourself in a claim or in litigation, your lawyer is able to take that disclaimer or waiver and blow it up on a big screen in front of a judge or a jury, or maybe in an email to opposing counsel before things get started, and remind everybody that there was a disclaimer, there was a waiver that related to everything that happened on that live video, or then later on when that video was recorded and shared on the various platforms like YouTube. Use disclaimers and use waivers both in live videos and incorporate them into any recorded versions of your live videos. This stuff can be a little bit complicated, I get it, but here's the deal. After helping hundreds of companies start up, small companies and large companies, I can tell you without exception, the successful companies that I've helped over the years were the companies that had good legal advice, they had a good lawyer in their corner, and they had a good CPA or accountant. No exceptions. Even though going live can be fun and easy, and that's why I like it, because you can connect with a lot of people, there are still certain business legal requirements that don't just go away because you're hitting the button and going live, right? And so keep that in mind. If you're serious about building out your business, think seriously about getting legal counsel and a good CPA or accountant to advise you as to what's going on in your business while you're going live. Because as you're going live and building relationships and bringing in new revenue to take care of your products and services, you still have a business to run. You've got to take care of minimizing your tax consequences, maximizing your end of year revenue, while at the same time using retirement account funding strategies to maximize your long-term wealth, whether it's personal or you want to donate it to charity. There's a process here that I think starts with the company you set up. It's complemented by your live video and live streaming efforts, and then it's maximized by how you run the business when it's all said and done. So hopefully I've given you guys a couple of things to think about. Hopefully I haven't scared anybody away. And I'm really hoping that everyone watching this video reaches out to me and circles back, whether it's by live video or in any other fashion on social media. I love talking about this stuff. I love sharing 34 years of legal tips and litigation advice and trial lawyer approaches with the live streaming and live video community. So if you guys ever want to reach out, connect with me at streaming.lawyer. I'm here for you. We're going to get through all of this together, you guys, with respect to COVID-19. But I do see this as a major business pivot opportunity to embrace the cloud, to embrace live video, and to keep positioning ourselves for future success. My name is Mitch Jackson. I'm here for you. And always remember to make each day your masterpiece.